What's going on, y'all? It's Athletes Culture again, coming at you with another video. So welcome to the new year. I know I've been late on putting out the videos, but I wanted to wait as the NBA season kicked off and, I wanted to do this video getting into about the 10-game mark. I wanted to do at least every 10 games to give you an update as to how the NBA is going. But, I couldn't help but just do a video, especially after seeing Steph Curry's phenomenal 62-point game and a particular player that has really been balling and putting his team on the map, and that is Joel Embiid. Now, Joel Embiid has really been coming into he's really been coming into his own this season. Taking care of business defensively, as we all know he should. So far, he's been helping being one of the leading forces with why Philadelphia has the best record in the NBA so far. Now, I would say their schedule has been relatively mid thus far. They just finished a back-to-back with the Charlotte Hornets, who I think will finish as one of the worst teams in the NBA. That's neither here nor there, but so they got 2 easy wins off of that. Let's just put it that way. But the way in which they're winning, being one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, in such an era that we have fast-paced three-pointers coming left and right, they're holding teams to about 102 to 100 somewhere between 102 to 100 points per game. That's pretty phenomenal in today's day and age of basketball, where you get called for any little thing, and Joel Embiid has been the defensive anchor for Philadelphia 76ers. Now, they're still shored up in the perimeter with the likes of Ben Simmons. Even Tobias Harris has stepped it up on defense on that end. Last season, I think Ben Simmons led the league in steals. But Joel Embiid, for what he's been doing, we got to tip our hats off to him. He's averaging somewhere around 25 a game, 13 rebounds, 2 or 3 assists. It's going to drop today, especially since he didn't really have to put in much damage against the Charlotte Hornets, who aren't really much to talk about. But the games in which they do need him, like the game against Toronto, obviously the game against the Knicks, he's really showed out. And he's shooting over 80% from the free throw line. So Joel Embiid continues to be as dominant as he is on the inside, defensively, offensively. You can't foul him. You can't hold him. There's not really much. There's not too many bigs in the NBA that you could put on him. The next big that you could possibly say defensively would probably be like a Steven Adams type. But when he stretches out a Steven Adams there, you're leaving the paint wide open. Nobody defending. Nikola Jokic doesn't have the strength to handle him. Anthony Davis doesn't have the strength to handle him. So the next big you could possibly name is like Giannis Antetokounmpo. But Giannis isn't going to want to bang up and down with the Joel Embiid for 48 minutes straight. I don't necessarily see that happening. So Joel Embiid, in this new era, thanks to the Lakers, where bigs are now back in style, Joel Embiid is now taking the league by storm within these 10 games. Let's see if it continues. It all depends on his health. If it continues, Philadelphia, like I said, still needs to shore up offensively. They're the best, one of the best, if not the best team defensively in the NBA. If they were to get somebody to add another offensive punch for them, especially on the perimeter for three-point shooting, and just be able to create a bucket for them team when it gets down to crunch time, Philadelphia obviously becomes one of the favorites to win an NBA title because they can match up with the Lakers. The Lakers right now are still the best team in the NBA, bar none. Best offensive team, best defensive team. They rank in the top 5, I think, in both categories, offensive and defensive ratings. So the Lakers are still the best team, but we all know in the playoffs, it's all about matchups come playoff time. And Philadelphia is the best team in the league to match up with the Lakers. They match them in size. They can play fast on the Lakers, in which the Lakers don't seem to play fast. And if they were to get the likes of I would say like a Zach LaVine, I still continuously say that if Philadelphia were to get a Zach LaVine, I put Philadelphia as the favorites to win an NBA title. But we shall see, But this video, like I said, it's all about Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid has really done his thing. We got to tip our hats off to him and what he's been doing. And in the NBA, there's a lot of players that you could mention who, if the MVP voting were to start today, who would be, there's names like Kevin Durant definitely would be in the mix. Paul George, who is shooting, averaging 25 and 5 while shooting 50, 40, 90. Paul George, surprisingly, would be on paper a surefire MVP candidate. All right, and then you had, and with the Clippers having the best record in the Western Conference too. On top of that, so Paul George has really surprised us. As much as we like to troll him on Twitter and stuff, Paul George has really put out his put his stamp and shown that he's turning things around. Let's hope it continues. So we got Paul George, Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant. Who else again? Jaylen Brown too. Jaylen Brown for Boston. I mean, he's really put his stamp on the game in terms of like player efficiency. He's averaging 28 a game. I mean, every night it's always a back and forth on who the best player is on Boston between him and Jason Tatum. Just tonight, Jason Tatum dropped 40. Seeing Jaylen Brown, who was averaging 28 a game. So you always get that tug and pull. I still think Tatum has the edge slightly when it comes down to it. When it's winning time, who are you putting the ball in? Whose hands are you putting the ball in? And that's going to be Jason Tatum. Henceforth, I have him being the best player. And he's a former All-NBA player, a very good defender. But Jaylen Brown, I mean, his motor is unmatched, especially on that perimeter. I mean, very few players in the NBA can compete with him motor-wise. Only player I would say that comes to mind immediately will be a Russell Westbrook. But Jaylen Brown, I mean, he's doing his thing. So there's a plethora. Even you look at players like Domantas Sabonis, Nikola Vucevic. I mean, they're really doing their thing. So the bigs are really showing out in the NBA this season. And the last two MVP award winners has been a big man, and that's Giannis Antetokounmpo. So the big is really back in style. And if you really want to win in the NBA, you're going to need a dominant big. Luckily for Philadelphia, they have Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid has really been doing his stuff. So let's just see. A game to look out for will be this Thursday when the Nets battle the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, this will be a real test if Joel Embiid is really the front runner as one of the best players or the MVP candidate front runner in the NBA. Like I said, it's still early, but if he dominates against Brooklyn, then easily Joel Embiid is there because the Sixers have had a pretty relatively easy schedule. And it's going to be tough for the Nets. I mean, they've gone through a slump themselves. I still think Steve Nash is experimenting. They have the best player in the world in Kevin Durant. They have Kyrie Irving, who's been playing great too. He's borderline 50, 40, 92. He hasn't missed a free throw all season so far, shooting 100% from the line, somewhere around 48% from the field. Same thing from three. Like, I mean, he's really been balling. Kyrie Irving. So, I mean, I want to see that Brooklyn Nets Philadelphia game. It'll be really, it's going to be something to really keep your eye out on if you really want to see who's going to be the dominant team in the Eastern Conference, especially when Philadelphia lays that defense on them. It's going to be basically the best offense versus the best defense, to say the least, because both teams really have their identity. You know, Brooklyn has it more so on the firepower that they bring offensively. When you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, again, it's their defense of what they bring to the game. So both teams really have their identity that really makes them a cut above the rest. I mean, Brooklyn is giving you like about 115 or 114 points per game. You know, Philadelphia is holding teams, like I said, to 100 and 102 points per game. I mean, that's, especially in this era, that's some throwback era type of defense. That's like mid to late 90s, mid 2000s type of defense where, you know, teams are really locking up. And it's all going to be predicated on Joel Embiid. What can he do for Philadelphia? If he dominates inside and treats Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan as barbecue chicken, then it's going to be a cruise. It's going to be a smooth winning for Philadelphia. But if he fools around and doesn't dominate, then I can see the Nets pulling out the victory. But all said and done, Joel Embiid so far up until 10 games, he's been phenomenal. He's everybody's front runner for an early MVP candidate. But I want to hear what y'all have to say. I want to hear who you guys got. My man Joel Embiid's been doing his thing. Shouts out to Jaylen Brown. Shouts out to Paul George. I mean, no, he hasn't erased the pandemic P title yet, but he's coming around. Even shouts out to Trae Young and Steph Curry for getting out of the shooting slump. I mean, the NBA has a lot of great talent, and they're putting out their stuff. And even for the Lakers, I mean, even shouts out to LeBron James, man. At 36 years old, a lot of people aren't really even talking about him because he's shooting below 50%, you know, but he's still averaging a double-double at 36 years old and still having the Lakers as one of the best teams in the NBA. Shouts out to LeBron James. I mean, You guys, we have to cherish these moments as we're watching one of the all-time greats do his stuff. So there's a lot of great talent, but Joel Embiid, the light's all on you. I want to hear what y'all have to say. Like, comment, subscribe down below. I'm out.